1, 2, ram!
Really good. You really brought it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You hang in there. You got a lot of ability.
And feel so happy and free.
Well, I was wondering if I could get some more work.
All I got is weekends. Isn't that when you sit on other dudes' faces?
You seem to function under two operating philosophies, and one is sort of a corollary of the other. The first is do not flinch, and the other is can we get the camera in closer? You really like bearing in, don't you, both literally and figuratively?
I think, it's actually probably the widest film I ever shot, this film. It's, as far as lens go, I didn't really do that many close-ups. But for me, I think, the greatest invention of the 20th century is the close-up. The fact that you can look at Paul Newman, and just see his big blue eyes and not be concerned that he's going to look back at you, and just experience his emotions to the fullest. It's one of the great, humanizing tools that ever happened, because you can just connect with another person. So I think that's why we go to the movies, is to see people, to see actors. That's what we, really at the core. That's what I guess other people now are into watching things blow up and watching people get hurt and stuff like that. But for me, I like to see, see truth and see human truth and see people expressing themselves, and so that's what I try to go after.
The red camera is gaining more traction in the industry, and
Sure.
they're shooting things in IMAX and 3D. And here you are with these Super 16
Yeah, sure.
cameras. Are you just more comfortable with that, or is it a matter of the content?
Yeah, it's always the content. This was a rough and rugged film, and I think, I love the grain, and I wanted it raw, and that's what I went for. If there was a project that, you can't shoot this film in 3D, it would be ridiculous. So, hopefully I'll find projects where we can try different technology. And for me, the exercise of this film was very much about, throwing away everything I was. I didn't want to, stay in the same type of filmmaking as Pi and Requiem and The Fountain. I just really wanted to do something completely different. And so it was a whole new filmmaking team, new producer, new DP, new production designer, new editor, and I just wanted to. I think it's important to keep challenging yourself. And if Madonna taught us anything, it's that you need to reinvent yourself. And that was the inspiration. It's like, as a creative person, you just have to keep doing different types of stuff.
The bit with the razor blade.
Yeah.
Tell me that came out of your fevered imagination.
Oh no, not at all. That's completely, and that's the oldest trick in the book. It's called gigging, and it's an actual term for it. They do it in lots of different ways. One of the ways they do it is they hide a small blade underneath their wristband, and during a heated moment in the match, they'll do that. I mean, that's only the tip of the iceberg. And what you saw in the hardcore match, the stuff with Necro Butcher. Necro Butcher's an actual real wrestler. That's his wrestling name. He's this underground cult American hero. You can Google him. You'll see a ton of stuff. And he's this top marquee. I mean, all over the world, Japan, United States, they fly him in, and he's always the last match, and they go crazy when he comes out because they know they're going to get some blood. And he's the sweetest man you'll ever meet. Yes, sir. No, sir. He's thank you for making a film of my life, sir. So it was great, and all the stunts they do, through the plate glass, through off ladders, it's just the tip of what they do. It's definitely a universe that's never been on film before, and it's got a lot of humor in it, a lot of fraternity, and a lot of surprise, and it's an old culture. It actually, I think, comes out of carnival culture. I don't know for sure. I don't think anyone's really done the research, but they actually still speak with their own language. They call the event the show, and they call the audience the mark. The good guys are baby faces, the bad guys are heels, and it's a culture unto itself. I think originally it was like, oh, fight the strong man, and if you beat the strong man, you get $1 or whatever it was, and then they'd have two strong men fight each other, and then eventually it evolved into modern professional wrestling, or however you want to call it. But it's a circus atmosphere, and it's a part of the circus you haven't seen before. you know, no one's ever done a picture on wrestling, and that's strange because it's such a big part of our culture. It's such a big part. I mean, I don't know where it ranks anymore as far as you know, on the levels of sports, but it's up there, and it was, you know, 10 years ago, number 1 or number 2 for a long time. I think it was bigger than the NFL for a while. But why has no one ever done it? I think, you know, people hear about wrestling, they hear it's fake, and they write it off as a joke. And but you know, when I started to look into seeing, you know, a 300-pound man jumping off the top rope, even if it is fake and he's trying to protect himself and his opponent, you know, that you're going to wake up the next day feeling it, unless you take some pills, which a lot of these guys end up doing, and then it leads to other things. And there's just a lot of drama in that world. And you know, for me, the big reward was about 5-6 days ago. We had our first legend happen to come to a screening, and that was Roddy Piper. I don't know if you remember him, but he showed up at a screening. Me nor Mickey had ever met him, and he at the end broke down and was just stunned that his story was finally told. He said, "Look, this isn't my story, but it is my story," and he was incredibly thankful that finally someone's kind of showing, you know, that world. And that for me was one of the early things, was going to these independent events and seeing these guys that used to sell out Madison Square Garden that were suddenly working for $200 a night, not purely to survive, although some of them are, but also to kind of stay connected to the old glory and to the fans. You know, they weren't all doing it. It wasn't for the money. You know, even though there was no money, it just wasn't about that. It was about trying to remain part of the brotherhood, trying to hold on to their relevance.
I'm here. I'm really here. What do you call that?
You hear them? This is where I belong. I gotta go.
No, Randy. Randy.